Welcome to BL Stories, where romance, drama, and unforgettable boys' love come to life. Love knows no limits, and the best stories aren't always straight. Subscribe now and join our growing BL-loving family. Alex's POV. The end of the week slipped by faster than I could have imagined. By the time Sunday arrived, I wasn't even sure what was real anymore. Christian had told me that Brad figured out a plan, but it meant we'd need to stall the wedding for as long as possible. Was I thrilled about the idea of attending a wedding that might actually bind the man I love to someone else? But was I willing to set aside my emotions and trust Brad to handle things? Absolutely. If it meant I could walk out of that beautiful, yet suffocating, venue with Christian still free, I would do whatever was asked of me. Christian stayed by my side the entire weekend, doing his best to carve out time just for us. We went for walks, cooked together, or rather, I cooked while Christian hovered nearby, pretending to help. His only real specialty was breakfast, and while pancakes for dinner wasn't unheard of, I refused to eat eggs and toast for every meal. Still, Christian surprised me. He was tender, a word I never thought I'd use to describe Christian Ivanov. He suggested we stay at my place, but I convinced him we should go to his instead. Nathaniel must have been lonely in that mansion all by himself. At least you'll be the best dressed in the entire place, Christian whispered as he helped adjust my bow tie. A shiver ran down my spine, remembering the way he'd whispered in my ear the night before, his voice pulling me in closer than I'd ever thought possible. I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror, my cheeks burning. I hate to admit it, but I'm actually excited to see how everything looks. I don't mind being back at the gardens again, I confessed. Christian wrapped his hands around my waist, brushing light kisses along my neck. If he kept going, we were going to be late. Christian, I groaned as his teeth grazed my skin. Stop, we'll be late. He pouted like a child being told no. It's not exactly something I care to be on time for, he muttered, making me roll my eyes. Still, I couldn't help but smile. At least we were on the same page about how absurd this whole situation was. Ironically, the most stressful part at first wasn't even the wedding itself, it was Derek. When Christian and I pulled up to the gardens, Derek was outside pacing nervously in a black suit. For once, he looked almost normal. Derek, what are you doing out here? I asked, stepping closer. I was waiting for you too, he said quickly, gesturing between Christian and me. I recognized the woman at the front desk and ran before she could notice me. Luckily, I had this fake mustache in my car. But I need a distraction, and what's a better distraction than the groom himself? What do you mean recognized? Christian asked at the same time I blurted out, why did you even have a mustache in your car? Derek fumbled, but I answered for him. He's been kicked out of the gates before, I explained to Christian. And as for the mustache, I probably don't want to know. Christian's expression said it all, and under different circumstances, I would have laughed. Derek quickly slapped the mustache on. It looked like a fuzzy caterpillar clinging to his lip, but I had bigger things to worry about. Christian and I walked inside first, Derek trailing behind us. Thanks to his height, the receptionist didn't notice him. She smiled warmly and directed us to follow the signs marked Christian and Roslana in elegant gold script. I wanted to rip down every single sign and set them on fire, but instead, I forced my irritation back down. I'll go find Slav. Can you let Roslana know we'll be stalling as much as possible? Christian asked. I nodded, watching him stride down the corridor toward the main hall. You should find Joan, I told Derek. Everything's set to start at 6, but we'll do whatever it takes to make sure that doesn't happen. He gave me a firm nod before slipping away. Meanwhile, I went searching for the bride. It didn't take long. The door to the bridal chamber was closed, but when I knocked, I heard a soft, "Come in." I stepped inside and stopped in my tracks. Roslana stood there already dressed in an elegant white gown, her hair curled and pinned into a half-up style that framed her face perfectly. She looked like she'd stepped right out of a bridal magazine. "Oh, wow, Roslana. You look just wow," I whispered. Her lips tugged into a faint smile, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Thank you," she said quietly. "I needed to hear that today." Her voice trembled on the edge of breaking, and my chest tightened. For a moment, I hated myself for every bitter thought I'd had about her. She was every bit as trapped in this as Christian was. If I could call this whole thing off, I would, she admitted. Even now, I wonder if inheriting my father's legacy is worth it, worth hurting people. I promise you, Roslana, you won't be getting married today. My words came out steadier than I felt, but I meant them. I would stop this wedding, no matter what it took. Her brows furrowed. What do you mean? Christian and I have been working on a way out since the moment we heard about this marriage. I stopped, unsure how much to reveal. I know, she interrupted with a small, genuine smile. Anyone with eyes can see the way that man looks at you. I couldn't explain the feeling that bloomed in my chest. Happiness was the closest word I had. Before I could reply, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, then back at me. My father just arrived, she said quietly. What's the plan? For now, I told her, we stall as long as we can. Christian's POV. Have you heard from Brad yet? Slav asked, leaning closer as if his nerves couldn't keep still. My mother reached across us, fussing with my tie again. I haven't, I said, shaking my head and gently swatting her hands away. Both of them were on edge and so was I. The last thing I needed was to feel more suffocated. Slav's hands fidgeted constantly as more guests began to gather inside the venue. The wedding itself was designed to be intimate, no more than 20 guests. I recognized almost no one, aside from two men I thought might be longtime investors in Ivanov Corporation. Hard to tell from where we sat. The venue was breathtaking, just as Alex had described. The gardens had been decorated with white lisianthus, the signature flower for the ceremony. I didn't know whether Yakov had chosen them, but the sight still brought a faint smile to my face. Alex would love this. Any ideas on how to stall? Slav pressed. I nodded. Roslana's still in her chambers. I heard she's claiming to have cramps. She's with Yakov now. Alex texted me that he's arrived, and this should buy Brad another 30 to 45 minutes. They're supposedly looking for painkillers before the ceremony starts. Otherwise, she says she won't even be able to walk down the aisle. That's clever, my mother murmured. Smart girl. Well, she's Yakov's daughter, Slav added. Something about his tone sparked curiosity in me. We'd never really talked about Slav's connection to Yakov or the history of their research together. But this was the worst possible time for that conversation. It was a good excuse, but sooner or later someone would find the pills. Then the countdown would truly begin. Nevertheless, Christian, listen to me. Slav's voice turned sharp. If Brad doesn't make it in time, call this off. I turned to him, stunned. But your research? Forget the research. Slav cut me off instantly. I told you I'd exhaust every option. If Brad can't bring that last piece of information, then so be it. I'm not going to stand here and watch you marry someone you don't love. His words carried weight, but his restless hands betrayed his nerves. My mother reached for my father's hand, steadying him as he offered her a small smile. No matter what happens, Christian, we'll be all right, she said softly. I nodded but didn't know how to respond. If I stopped this wedding, it meant throwing away decades of my father's work, years of sacrifice that had kept him away from us. I wasn't sure what would be left of him if I forced that loss. Before I could think further, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A single message from Alex appeared. Yakov just left. We need you. Christian. A deep voice thundered from down the hall. My entire body tensed as I turned to see Yakov striding toward me, towering in his black suit that emphasized every ounce of muscle. Where are you going, son? The ceremony is about to begin. I froze. I couldn't say I was headed to see Roslana and Alex. Everyone knew it was bad luck for the groom to see the bride before the wedding. I'm just going to the kitchen. There seems to be a mix-up. Realization flickered across Yakov's face. Roslana changed the cake order. My goodness, she's made quite a few changes. Changes to the cake? I thought, but didn't have time to question it. Exactly, I said with a forced smile. I'll just check to make sure everything looks right. Yakov gave me a slow nod. Don't take long. We had a delay already, but now we're back on track." With that, he disappeared into the main hall. I exhaled sharply and hurried to the bridal chambers. Inside, Roslana sat on a lounge chair, holding a bottle of Advil. She looked stunning in her gown, elegant, almost untouchable. But her expression told another story. She looked ready to collapse. Alex quickly pulled me inside and closed the door. Yaakov found aspirin. Now he expects her ready to walk in less than 20 minutes. "It's not looking good, Christian." I glanced at Roslana and felt the weight of everything pressing down. My father's research, Roslana's future, Alex's heart, my own. None of us wanted this marriage, not even her. "Alex," I whispered, eyes locked on his. "Can I speak with you alone?" He nodded, searching my face for clues. I led him back into the hallway, away from Roslana's ears. "What is it?" he asked. "What are you thinking?" I paused, took a deep breath, and found the courage to go on. "You know that I love you, right?" Alex gave a slow nod. "And I love you," he said gently. I could never tire of hearing those words. "And you know I would never, ever do anything to hurt you, right?" His brows furrowed. "You're not," his voice cracked. "You're not breaking up with me, are you?" My heart shattered hearing the fear in his voice. "Of course not, you idiot," I whispered urgently. "I'm trying to propose." Before I could explain further, a voice boomed from the entrance. "I got it. I got it." Brad came sprinting down the hallway, waving 2 manila envelopes in his hand. His dress shoes betrayed him. He tripped and tumbled hard onto the carpet. Yet even in his fall, he clutched the envelopes tightly, refusing to let them go. Christian's POV. Brad handed me the slightly crumpled folders he had been clutching, still brushing dust off his pants from his fall. The carpet had left streaks across the fabric. "What are these?" I asked, flipping open the manila folders. Before he could answer, Slav appeared from the main room. "Brad!" Slav called, jogging over to us. I held my breath, silently hoping he'd manage a better sprint than Brad had earlier. Between Brad's large feet and those pointed shoes, the carpet seemed determined to trip him up. "These," Brad explained, gesturing to the documents, "are bank records from 2 conservative accounts linked to Slav's research facility." I glanced down. The papers detailed 3 separate accounts. "The funds moving in and out don't match what's recorded on this register," Brad said, pointing to another folder. So I dug deeper into this private account listed here. It channels back to one of Yaakov's accountants. He flipped through the pages I held, showing me numbers. I barely understood the Ukrainian text, but the figures told the story. Large withdrawals from the official accounts, deposits into the private one. I don't understand how you got this," Slav began, but I cut him short. Time wasn't on our side. I snapped the folders shut and thrust them into Slav's hands. "Stop the wedding before Yaakov goes any further." Slav nodded and hurried toward the main hall. I turned back to Alex and Brad. "Alex, can you make sure everything is completely halted? The venue staff will probably have questions with all these delays, and Roslana deserves to know what's happening. I'll speak with Brad privately, then join you." Alex looked as stunned as anyone would in his place, but he pushed past it and gave me a firm nod. "That I can definitely do." I watched the man I had been seconds away from proposing to follow Slav toward the main hall. It hurt that I wouldn't see his first reaction to the lit-up white lisianthus along the aisle, glowing beneath the glass ceiling that opened to the evening sky. I wanted to see the wonder in his eyes again, the same look he'd given those flowers before. But there were more urgent matters now. As soon as I found an empty room, I pulled Brad inside and shut the door behind us. "What are you doing?" Brad began. "Sit down," I snapped, "and listen. Don't tell me this was just a few strings pulled. A private account like that wouldn't be listed anywhere publicly. Which means you obtained this illegally. I need to know how. Right now." Brad sank into one of the lounge chairs. The room looked nearly identical to Roslana's chamber, probably the groom's quarters. "It's not important how," he said. "What matters is that we have the proof to stop this." "No," I pressed my fingers against my temple, trying to ward off the pounding in my head. "This is very important, Brad. Slav and we've already started preparing to transfer his COO position into your name. Brad's eyes widened, shock written across his face. You're serious? I nodded. Slav agreed. That means your shares will increase and your title too. But I can't have you making reckless choices when you're about to become Chief Operations Officer. I need to know exactly what you did. I studied his face. He looked caught off guard, grateful, but also conflicted. Brad stammered, searching for words. I'm grateful, Christian. More than I can say. I just didn't expect this. I sat beside him. I should have told you earlier. I wanted to wait until all this chaos was behind us. Brad shook his head. No, thank you. Really. But you and Slav were right. Those transactions couldn't have been obtained legally. I had to reach out for help. From someone who could hack into a family as powerful as Yakov's. Someone who's done it before. My breath caught. Brad, tell me you didn't. I had no other choice. Brad sighed, the weight of weeks of tension finally pressing through his voice. Vadik had the connections. I didn't. A storm of emotions rushed through me. We would have found another way. Anything else? I was seconds away from proposing to Alex. Brad, seconds? Not in time, he cut in. I wasn't going to let you be forced into a marriage you didn't want. Not with Roslana, not with anyone. You deserve the right to choose who and when. No one gets to take that from you. Not even me. The burning sensation behind my eyes told me tears weren't far away. Out of all the possibilities, I hadn't expected this. What did he ask for in return? I whispered. Brad's jaw tightened. He asked me to go back. Temporarily. My brows furrowed. Back home? With Mom and Dad? He shook his head. No. Back to Russia. Christian's POV. Our Russia? I blurted out. It's not as bad as you think, Brad argued, catching my expression of disbelief. It's temporary, and it's something I was considering even before this whole situation with Vadik. I'd be managing business relations between his company and a partner firm. It's just a few months, and I'd still be able to work with Ivanov Corp, just from another country. I stared at him. I don't like this at all. Unfortunately, it's not really for you to decide. It's already been settled. Brad's tone was steady. And honestly, Christian, maybe you should let someone else make the sacrifices this time. I looked away, fighting the urge to smile at his nerve. Brad had sacrificed more than anyone would ever know. All I was doing was evening the balance. So what happens in the meantime? I asked quietly. Mom and Dad won't take this news well. Brad nodded. No, I don't think they will. But they'll have to. At least Slav now has leverage to cancel this wedding and let us move forward. And this internship will strengthen my role as COO in the long run. All I ask is that you trust me. I leaned back into the lounge chair, my thoughts swirling. What would moving forward even look like? I thought of Alex, and of what I'd been about to ask him before Brad arrived. Was I truly ready for marriage? Or was it just the pressure of the moment pushing me forward? One thing I knew for certain, I loved him. I wanted to face whatever was ahead with him by my side. And right now, we were standing in the middle of a wedding that was no longer happening. Hypothetically, I asked Brad, how crazy would it be to propose to someone you've only known a few months? Brad's lips curved into a grin. I mean it, hypothetically, I insisted. That only made him laugh. It's just, this reminds me of when you first told me about Alex. Back then, you asked me what to do because he'd been critical of you. Now you're asking if you should marry him. Quite the shift in hypotheticals, don't you think? I couldn't help but smile. He wasn't wrong. Brad leaned back thoughtfully. A while ago, you asked me whether or not you should fire someone for being critical of you as a leader. I told you it depended on the value you placed on that person, their words, and the role they played in your life. Today you're asking if you should marry that very same person. The answer is still the same. No one else can make this decision for you. Only you know the value Alex brings to your life. For once, I didn't frown at Brad's vague words. Back then, I told you to pause before making a hasty decision. But today, he paused. Today, I'll say the opposite. Marriage isn't something to take lightly, but it also isn't something you can overthink to death. If people waited until they were absolutely certain, no one would ever get married. For this decision, I think you should follow your heart. I shook my head, half amused, half exasperated. Since when did you become the poet of the family? Brad chuckled. So, how'd I do? Confucius has nothing on your wise proverbs, I teased. We walked back toward the main hall together. I glanced around, but neither Alex nor Roslana was anywhere in sight. Slav and Yakov were gone as well. Check the bridal chambers, Brad suggested. I nodded and headed down the corridor. Before I could knock, Roslana opened the door. Oh, she gasped, startled to see me. But she was smiling, genuinely smiling. Thank you. She surprised me with a brief hug before sweeping past me, the train of her gown trailing behind her. Inside, only Alex remained. She's telling the guests the wedding's been called off, he explained. Looks like she took it well, I noted. Alex nodded, smiling faintly. She practically tackled me when I told her. I'm glad she doesn't have to go through with it. But what worries me is that Yakov might try again. It sounded like he was pressuring her future to get her to agree to this. I nodded. That's a concern I share. Alex stood, looking relieved. At least this crisis is over. I hesitated. I don't think it is. Confusion filled his face. What do you mean? Please don't tell me there's more. I shook my head slowly. Just before Brad arrived, I was about to propose to you. At the time, I felt the weight of everything. The families, the company, the impossible choices. But in that exact moment, I realized something. I didn't just want to be with you as a partner in name, I wanted to truly choose you. I took a deep breath. Loving you isn't about blind devotion. It's about respecting boundaries, working together, and building something we can both believe in. You've shown me what it means to be a team. And in that moment, I chose you, not just as my boyfriend, but as the person I want to build a life with. Alex listened, his eyes soft, giving me the space to speak. We're standing here in a venue filled with the flowers you love, in front of people who matter, even if some of them we don't know. And the best part? It's on Yakov's dime. That finally made Alex laugh. I want nothing more than to spend my life with you, he said quietly. But part of me wonders if we're rushing this. What if we don't work out? But what if we do? I countered. I can't promise what 5 years from now will look like. I can't even promise we'll make it 5 years. But I can promise this, I'll try. I'll try harder than I've ever tried for anything. And even if you wanted to quit, I'd make you put together a PowerPoint with cited sources explaining why. That made Alex burst into a wider smile, and my heart pounded harder. From what I hear, I said softly, moving closer, we've got a room full of guests and an officiant still waiting. So maybe we shouldn't waste the moment. I sank down on one knee, watching his eyes widen. Alexander Hamilton, I said, my voice steady, I don't have a ring for you tonight, but I can get one tomorrow. For now, will you accept my promise, and give me the honor of becoming my partner in marriage? Alex's POV. My eyes welled with tears at Christian's words, about us being a team. It reminded me of the same deep, unshakable warmth I felt when he added my name to our presentation in New York. For all the weight he carried on his shoulders, Christian never failed to make me feel seen, heard, understood. He gave me the courage I hadn't even realized I'd been searching for. He taught me what conditional love really meant, and how to set boundaries, even with the people closest to me. I finally understood that my energy had limits, that giving until I had nothing left wasn't noble, it was self-destructive. Ironically, it took a man with his own storms to help me face mine. Christian had anger issues, yes, but he always stood up for himself and for the people he loved. His boundaries were firm, even while he pushed limits elsewhere. I hadn't always been that assertive. Yet somehow, through him, I was learning to be. If you had told me that a man known for his temper and another known for his flaws would walk into my life, I would have laughed it off as the setup for a joke, not the foundation of something like this. Never in my wildest thoughts did I see husband material. But here I was. I thought back to that day on the beach, when Christian bared his heart to me. His words had been raw, honest, and unforgettable. He promised to show me his love not just once, but every day in every choice. And though doubt sometimes lingered in me, he had never once doubted me. He had trusted me more than anyone ever had. If there was one man who would go to the ends of the earth to bring even the smallest smile to my face, it was him. And what I was ready to promise in return was that I would match his effort for as long as love held us together. So, when Christian dropped to one knee, my answer came instantly. Yes. I barely gave myself time to process. Because Christian was right, nothing was guaranteed. Nothing was promised. The only vow we could make was to try. To wake up every day and give our best to this love. His smile after my answer was the brightest thing I had ever seen. Dimples deep, lines etched, blue eyes shining. I'd have to be blind not to say yes. He rose quickly, pulling me into a kiss, intense, brief, and full of meaning. My heart had been racing all day, but now it felt like it stopped altogether. I was serious about moving quickly, Christian said with a grin. This venue won't be ours forever. I nodded. I'm still in awe of how beautiful it looks. The hall was breathtaking, more than I'd ever imagined. Roslana told me earlier she never wanted any of this for her own wedding. She dreamed of something private. Just her and her partner. No cake, no flowers, no guests. But she saw how I loved these flowers, so she switched Yakov's choices for mine. She even changed the cake to chocolate, even though she doesn't like it. Christian's brows lifted. Sounds like her way of telling Yakov she was taking back some control. I have to admire that. I nodded, letting him guide me back into the main hall. The nerves hit harder with each step. Conversations died off as every eye turned toward us. My breath left me shaky. Christian slipped his hand into mine and didn't let go. We walked together toward his mother, where Brad, Joan, and Derek waited. Brad grinned knowingly when he spotted our joined hands, and I realized he must have known what Christian was planning. Looks like you two reached a conclusion, Brad murmured as we neared. His words were low, but nearby guests leaned in, eager to listen. What's happening, Christian? Anna asked. Your father said the wedding was postponed, but Brad told us to wait. Christian nodded. I've decided to marry Alex. He said it with ease, as though it were the simplest decision in the world. Brad's smile didn't waver. He'd clearly expected this. Derek and Joan, however, reacted with squeals loud enough to draw even more attention. Before they could make another outburst, Anna cut in, her eyes wide. This isn't your father's doing, is it? She asked. Christian shook his head. No. Slav is handling Yakov separately. This is my choice. Besides, he smirked, we've already got the venue, the guests, and the flowers, all on Yakov's dime. Anna pressed, but what about Slav? Or Alex's mother? You know Slav's a hopeless romantic. He'll be furious if he misses this. Before we could reply, the main doors opened and Slav walked in. All eyes turned as he approached. Is it settled? Christian asked. Slav gave a firm nod. He and Roslana are leaving shortly. Good, Christian said, because I'm marrying Alex. Slav's face mirrored Anna's shock, but before he could respond, the minister finally stepped forward, his patience worn thin. What is going on here? He demanded. Is this wedding happening or not? His accent was thick, his age etched into his voice. The wedding is on, Christian replied, his hand gripping mine, but I'll be marrying my partner, Alex. The minister's expression hardened. Your partner? I did not agree to marry two men. This is not marriage, it is a distortion. The room went still. The first three to react were the largest men present. What did you just say? Christian's voice was sharp, protective. His grip tightened in mine. I know you didn't just use those words, Slav growled, and Anna had to hold him back. Who do you work for? Brad demanded. Because I'd love to know which organization sends ministers who speak like that. His tone carried a weight that made even me tense. Even Joan's eyes flashed dangerously, ready to step in. And then Derek, of all people, spoke. Then leave, he snapped. Nobody here needs your outdated nonsense. His glare narrowed. Funny enough, I'm an officiant. California recognized it, even if the website was Questionable. I might need to Google a few steps, but I'll marry them myself. The room fell silent again, but this time for an entirely different reason. Alex's POV. I wasn't sure how to process what had just happened. No one really knew how to react to Derek's announcement. The priest's grumble finally broke the silence. Without a word, he gathered his things and left, his expression sour but defeated. "Well, I guess that settles it," Joan remarked, just as Derek strutted confidently to the front of the venue, claiming the officiant spot. "That still leaves the question of your mother," Christian whispered to me. I gave him a slow nod. As much as I wanted her there to give me away, I knew this wasn't the right place. The open bar alone was reason enough. "She wouldn't be comfortable here," I admitted softly. "But she'd love to see it." "Joan, could you record everything for me?" "Of course, sweetheart," Joan beamed. "Hand me the phones and I'll capture it perfectly." I passed her mine, and Christian handed her his newer one. Definitely the better choice for pictures. Meanwhile, Derek was pulling up a script on his phone. Christian addressed the guests who had stayed behind. "Today, there's been a change of plans," he began. "I know you were invited to witness the joining of two families. That union will not be happening. Instead, I'll be marrying my partner, Alexander Hamilton." He gestured toward me, his hand never leaving mine. "If anyone objects, the exit doors are right over there." 3 guests quietly stood and left. That left only a small group. The wedding had always been intimate. "And one more thing," Christian continued, his tone firm. "If you've chosen to stay, you've chosen to respect the love I've chosen. If I hear so much as a whisper of slander against Alex, my family, or this company, you can consider all ties, professional or personal, permanently cut." The room fell into stunned silence. Then Christian squeezed my hand. "That being said, let's get on with this." "Derek." "Ready as I'll ever be," Derek grinned, clearing his throat. "Welcome, everyone. It's no accident you're here today. You represent the most." He stopped, frowning at his phone. "Okay, that part doesn't make sense under the circumstances. Let's skip that." "Derek." Christian interrupted, exasperated. "All right, fine. I'll just wing it." "Not a good," I started, but it was too late. Derek was already rolling. "We're here to see my boss, Christian Ivanov, marry one of my best friends, Alexander Hamilton. I haven't known them as a couple for long, but what they've faced these past months proves their love is real. It's an honor to stand here and witness this." To my surprise, he wasn't doing badly. But then he froze, his eyes locked on the back of the room. A woman had entered, older, sharp in a gray blazer and pencil skirt, flanked by 2 men in black. Their presence was intimidating, their stance commanding. "Have you two already done the heartfelt vows thing?" Derek whispered to us suddenly. "I mean, sort of," Christian replied, clearly confused. "Great. Then let's fast forward. Christian Ivanov, do you take Alexander Hamilton to be your husband?" "I do," Christian answered cautiously. "And Alexander Hamilton, do you take Christian Ivanov to love, cherish, and all that?" Derek rushed through, already pocketing his phone. "You do," I replied, uncertain whether I should be amused or alarmed. "There aren't any rings, so this saves me time," Derek muttered, slipping off his shoes and tying the laces together. "And with the power vested in me by the state of California and getmarriednow.net, I now pronounce you husband and husband. You may kiss." And with that, Derek bolted down the aisle barefoot, his shoes swinging around his neck. Security lunged after him, but he vaulted over chairs and sprinted out the glass doors, faster than I'd ever seen him move. Gasps filled the room, but before anyone could process it, Joan's voice cut through. "Kiss," she shouted, waving the phones she was recording with. Christian turned to me, a grin spreading across his lips. "Kiss me," his eyes said. I rose on my toes and pressed my lips gently to his. His hand cupped the back of my neck as he held me close, but I pulled away before it went further. This wasn't the place for more than a simple promise. Applause began hesitantly, confusion still lingering, but soon it grew steady. It was an innocent kiss, but it carried the weight of everything we had been through. "I think Derek's getting arrested right now," Christian whispered, his forehead against mine, those endless blue eyes pulling me in again. Should we deal with that? I gave him a sly smile. Honestly, I don't think he'd care what time we bailed him out, so long as we brought him some chocolate cake. Christian chuckled, pulling me in for another kiss. Then let's enjoy this moment a little longer. My heart fluttered wildly, not from fear anymore, but from life itself. Thanks for listening to today's BL story. If it made your heart skip a beat, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Only here on BL Stories, where love knows no limits.